In this video, I will review what Rene Le Forestier has to say about Illuminated Freemasonry in Book 3 of his study on the Bavarian Illuminati. Adam Weishaupt decided in 1777 to merge his order of the Illuminati with the Order of the Freemasons, and he traveled to Munich in order to make this happen. He believed this would make the Illuminati order stronger than ever. The original idea for this came from his colleague Xavier Zwack, also known as Cato. Weishaupt, however, made sure that his order would remain completely independent of Freemasonry and that it would maintain its own lodges. Freemasonry would be used as a cover for the true order in all circumstances. It would be concealed from ordinary Masons the truth that there was a difference between the Illuminati system and the other systems. What was the purpose of Weishaupt's plan? To hide behind Freemasonry in order to propagate the real goals of the Illuminati order, to spread anti-clerical propaganda, and to recruit new members. One of the places specifically that was targeted for recruitment was Frankfurt. A man recruited from Frankfurt was responsible for redefining the Illuminati order in a most significant way. Adolf Franz Friedrich Ludwig Baron von Nigg, shown here, was a democratic nobleman and an author, writer, and moralist. He was born on October 16, 1752, to a family that owned significant estates and properties. He enrolled in the University of Göttingen in 1769. Within 2 years, he moved to Kassel and managed to gain the favor of the Landgrave Frederick of Hesse. He had already been exposed to talk of Freemasonry and the occult sciences in his father's house, his father having been initiated into that society. Nigg was initiated into the Crowned Lion Lodge of the Strict Observance in Kassel in 1772, but he remained at the level of apprentice for quite some time. His superiors were uninterested in promoting him to a higher grade, and in addition he lacked the funds to pay for such a promotion. However, he remained interested in discovering more about these grades. He managed to learn about the organization of the High Templar grades, and with this information tried to promote his own advancement in the organization. In this, he was unsuccessful, and Le Forestier says he eventually ceased to frequent the lodge. However, his interest was soon rekindled when Prince William designated him as one of the authorities responsible for establishing a lodge in Hanau, where there were very few Masons. Because he had the favor of the prince, he was promised advancement in the society after this, and soon gained acceptance into the inner order of the Strict Observance. Nigg was sure that the Order of the Temple was in possession of important knowledge of occult sciences. He wrote that, quote, "In religion, I floated between faith and skepticism. The doctrine of the different confessions could not satisfy me, nor rational religion offer me peace. I was tormented by doubts concerning the truth of several of the revealed dogmas, stirred up by the desire for a more complete and supernatural enlightenment. The higher grades of the Strict Observance helped me sense this clearly. Ancient manuscript fell into my possession. I had the opportunity to understand the supreme grades and even the extremely rare grades of the other branches of Masonry. All were concerned with the high sciences and occult knowledge." End quote. In an attempt to prove his worth to the order, he devised a plan for a radical reform of Freemasonry. His first stated goal was to win back the original purity envisioned by the founders of Masonry, who sought to help man achieve his lost perfection. It would be important to begin with the regeneration of the physical body and follow a sensible diet, but also key to live a life free of distractions and a concentration on the elevation of the soul. This would include a study of the mysterious sciences, which required an extensive investigation of the forces of nature. He painted a picture of himself as an adept of the high sciences and kept an air of mystery about him. Le Forestier reports that the superiors of the Strict Observance issued a pamphlet on September 19, 1780, which seemed to support Nigg's plan to reform the order. The system he envisioned consisted of 7 grades. He met and began to work with a man named the Marquis di Costanzo on these reform plans. It was Costanzo who suggested that it might be more feasible to take an already existing society and meld it with Freemasonry rather than to create an entire new system. Nig, at the time, was apparently not aware of the Order of the Illuminati. Le Forestier says this surprised Costanzo, who told Nig that the strength of this society resides precisely in the profound mystery that surrounds it, so that this secret, guarded, inviolably enables the faithfulness and strength of soul of its members to be judged, and that in addition, while one may not notice its activities, it has produced many events in the world whose effects are seen without the revelation of their causes. Nig asked to be admitted to the order and signed the pledge letter. Weishaupt, for his part, encouraged Nig with his own enthusiasm. He depicted the Order of the Illuminati as a society that, through the more subtle and nimble means, sought to ensure the triumph of virtue and wisdom over the stupidity and wickedness governing the world, to make the most important discoveries in the various sciences, to make its members both good and great, to assure them in this world the prize of their perfection, to protect them against oppression and the reversals of fate, and to bind the hands of despotism whence it comes. He wrote to Nig, knowing that the man was extremely interested in high sciences and philosophy, and tried to impress him with his own knowledge of the subject. He promised him a new heaven and a new earth, a system reforming men and the world, a covenant binding the most noble of men, a sacred legion of invincible soldiers fighting for wisdom and virtue. Nig was hooked. He wrote to Weishaupt and told him that the strict observance was experiencing a crisis among members who were divided on the intention to renounce the quest of secret knowledge promised by the clerks and Templar hypotheses, and to bring back Masonry to its true origins and purpose, which he saw it as being moral education in the union of all Masons. It did not take long, however, for trouble to brew between Weishaupt and Nig. Weishaupt possessed within his character a rather excessive quantity of what Le Forestier describes as stubbornness, pride, and the desire to rule. He expected that inferiors in the order would show him obedience. For his part, Nig found that Weishaupt and his associates held a rather false view of the concept of enlightenment. They held fast to the idea that the term meant having a violent hostility toward any religious ideas, and therefore exuded intolerance toward regular, honest people who had no interest in renouncing their faith. Nig also realized deep divisions existed between the leaders of the Illuminati order. This troubled him. Le Forestier reports that Nig received letters from members in the order that Weishaupt displayed tendencies toward obstinacy, jealousy, and despotism. These letters describe this as Weishaupt's Jesuitical way of sowing discord between them to cement his power over divided minds. It seemed Weishaupt's initial idea for the order contained the seed of its own inevitable demise. It would eventually become a despotic organization itself. Nig, on the other hand, tried to exert a moderating influence on the order and advocated for instruction as a primary focus for the order in its quest to spread enlightenment. On July 9, 1781, the Bavarian Illuminati met in General Assembly in Munich and signed a document called Decision Made Jointly by the Areopagites on the Purpose of the Society, the Methods it should employ, and the organization it should be given. One of the most significant principles included was that the order would not include itself or concern itself with religion or politics. At about the same time, however, Weishaupt was writing this about the possible Freemasonry Illuminati alliance, quote, "It is needful that the Jesuit not find a single ambiguous line that would betray our aims concerning religion and state, and that the order should win, direct, and support those whom Providence has summoned to educate and govern men," end quote. Eventually, Nig was to draft the entire system to attach the whole of the order to Freemasonry. On December 20th, 1781, representatives met at a convention in Athens in which established the rights and prerogatives of the Areopagites, who were to be under the authority of Spartacus, that's Weishaupt. The table of grades established was as follows. First class was the Minerval class, which included A, novice, B. Minerval, C. Minerval Illuminati or Illuminatus Minor. Second class, which included Blue Freemason, Apprentice, Journeyman, and Master. Third class, which included Class of the Mysteries, the Illuminatus Major or Notus Scotsman, and the Illuminatus Dirigens or the Scottish Knight. And finally, the fourth class, which was the Greater Mysteries, Priest, Mage, and Regent. And these were grades that were not developed until later. Le Forestier goes into a detailed explanation of each of the grades and organization of Illuminated Freemasonry. One of the most fascinating of the descriptions is about the grade of Illuminati Major. Le Forestier sums up the main occupation of this grade as follows. Members were to devote a good deal of time to a detailed analysis of character. Members were instructed to examine our features frequently, every day, every hour. You will always discover new details there, and thereby learn to interpret those of others. Know thyself. Study yourself if you wish to get inside others, and then know others. The primary reason for this tactic was to enable members of the order to recruit others. In addition, they were expected to use their influence in the world to serve the order, and they were also in charge of the overall administration of the Minerval assemblies. The grade of Illuminatus Dirigens, or Scottish Knight, was attained only after the member was able to offer significant proof of his progress in this self-knowledge and knowledge of others. To offer significant proof of this. However, the grade was a purely administrative grade. If he wanted to rise further in the order, and be accepted into the first grade of the Lesser Mysteries or the grade of Presbyter, he had to provide proof of his study of science as well as the progress he had made in that regard. The candidate who wished to advance was summoned before the prefect of the order and asked to respond to 10 detailed questions. Questions 9 and 10 are particularly interesting. Question 9 was, should not all these organizational vices and social flaws be corrected gradually in silence before there can be any hope of ushering in this golden age? And would it be better while waiting to propagate truth by means of secret societies? And question 10 was, can we find traces of a similar secret doctrine in the oldest of wisdom schools, in the metaphorical teachings that Christ, the Savior and Liberator of the human race, gave to his closest disciples? Haven't you noticed that an institution of gradual education like this has existed since the dawn of time? The grade of princeps or regents was attained by a very small number of Illuminati. This grade supplied the order with its high administrators, and these posts were conferred for life. During the reception for the regent grade, the member was told that the order has purified him. He has learned to dominate his passions. He has studied himself. The superiors have examined his heart. According to Le Forestier, a brief speech was then made in which the member was informed that the doctrines of the order were known to the first men and had handed down by an uninterrupted tradition, and that Freemasonry was merely preparation for the teaching provided by the order. In the last part of Book 3, Le Forestier discusses the political and religious doctrines of the Illuminati order. He says that Illuminated Freemasonry claimed it had collected an encyclopedic knowledge of how to transform observation into a rigorously scientific means of investigation. That science would be all about the knowledge of man. Members of the order were instructed in the most meticulous methods of observation in pursuit of this science. Descriptions of those who were observed included everything from appearance, dress, and housing, right down to such details as how a candidate behaved when he was drunk, and if he sought to see his mistress whenever he could, or only visited her at set times. According to Le Forestier, the goal of Illuminated Freemasonry was to take control of secular and religious teaching and to influence public opinion. It sought to place its members in the top positions of the state and ensure their loyalty to the order. By this method, it was hoped the ecclesiastics would come under the control of the order, while avoiding the Jesuits as if they were the plague. Le Forestier also reports that Illuminati members sometimes employed dubious methods. One secret instructional manual for recruiters said, one should know how to dose the drink based on the individual constitution, and subsequently give the order the name that will act most strongly on the candidate. Some are looking for a new kind of Freemasonry, others a learned society, others a Rosicrucian circle, and even others a political association. Each individual should find exactly what he is looking for. The order can satisfy every aspiration, and it is not always under the same name in all lands. In other words, it was acceptable to utilize the rather spurious method of leaving everything to be assumed, but nothing stated outright. In addition, the instructional manual directed recruits to take credit for any great events that occurred in order to give the impression that powerful monarchs were being led by the order, as well as other Masonic systems and orders. The regents were told, "The large part of our strength lies in secrecy, so it is always necessary to cover ourselves with the name of another society. The inferior Freemason lodges are the most convenient veil for concealing our higher purposes, because the world is already accustomed to not expecting anything great from them that would attract attention. The name of a scholarly society is also an excellent mask for our lower classes, and one we can hide behind if someone should learn about our assemblies. Our order should hide itself in more noble fashion behind a learned society or something like it." Le Forestier comments that the esoteric teachings provided by the order were meant to keep busy those deemed unworthy of future advancement. The explanation of the Masonic hieroglyphs the Scottish Knights were given was meant to dazzle them and, in reality, to lead them astray. The true doctrines of the order were known only by the grades of priest and regent. With regard to political doctrines, it was Weishaupt's belief that the state was the oppressor of men. His philosophy espoused the view that the evolution of mankind will have reached its final stage once men have learned to moderate their desires. When achieved, he thought, men would no longer have need of leaders or civil authority. He wrote that, quote, "With enlightenment spread everywhere, a general security will render kings and states useless. Morality is the art that teaches men to become adults, to emerge from tutelage, to enter into the prime of their age and dispense with princes. Every adult man has the right to govern himself, and when the entire nation has reached adulthood, there is no longer any reason for it to remain in tutelage." End quote. It would be the secret societies, and especially the Illuminati system, that would lead the way for this emancipation of humanity to occur. In the next video, I will discuss the history of the Illuminati system as presented by Le Forestier in Book 4 of his book, The Bavarian Illuminati, The Rise and Fall of the World's Most Secret Society.